And brings the time now to 14 minutes to 10 here on Africa World Hour. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for continuing to be with us. If you have since 2100 hours, and if you've just tuned in, thank you for tuning in as we wrap up the show. So this time we talk about something of interest. According to an Airbus study, only 1 in 5 airline routes across Africa are direct, meaning most travelers still have to fly through Europe or the Middle East just to reach another African country. This results in higher costs, fewer travelers, and weaker tourism and trade links across the continent. With South Africa hosting the G20 summit, seamless global connectivity is high on the agenda. Experts say Africa has a unique chance to push for modernized air service agreements that make it easier and cheaper to fly within the continent. We speak now to Professor Kaitano Dube, Professor in Tourism and Integrated Communication from the Vaal University of Technology, on why air connectivity is vital for Africa's growth. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Professor Dube, on such an important subject, and one, dare I say, that has exasperated many Africans and who have been asking for many years that why are we not fixing this? Are you able to answer that question?
So good evening, Sister Piso, and good evening also to your viewers. So the issue of air connectivity is a complex one which we cannot solve overnight, but it's something I think that we need to start working towards so that we ensure that there is regional integration, continental integration, within the scope of trying to improve the economic and livelihood security of our people. So air connectivity is not only vital in terms of from a tourism perspective, but it's a critical cog in terms of economic development, particularly when we look at the importance of cargo airlines that play a critical role in trying to move some of the goods that actually either are produced in Africa or in other sections of the world. Air connectivity become a central tool in achieving that. But what we have seen is that given the historical legacy where Africa came late in terms of the global development, we have not seen a significant progress in this particular regards. With COVID-19 reversing, I think, some of the gains that we have seen. We during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen quite a number of airlines, being declared either insolvent or going under, literally, which compounds the problems that we have had in terms of connectivity. If you look at closer home, the South African Airways had to be put under business rescue. We had, I think, Kulula, which was operated by British Airways, which service, most of our tourism routes. And this had significant impact on the travel and mobility and the lift in terms of some of our destinations now are actually realizing as we post COVID-19, as we see recovery taking place. But we also have infrastructure challenges whereby some of the infrastructure that we have in terms of airport is not adequate to kind of service some of the aircraft that we have. So this is a major problem which have got multifaceted challenges.
Okay.
And when I was talking about the legacy, yes.
All right. No, I just wanted us I get the challenges, and we are going to drill into them, but I just thought let us just also deal with where we are at the moment. So it's not as if African leaders and obviously the academic sphere have not identified these problems and have not risen to the challenge. I'm talking about African leaders here. The AFCFTA has been the subject of much debate, including the regional agreements that are in place. So there is a recognition by the regional blocs as well that there is an impact in the lack of modernized air service agreements. But how long are we talking about in making some sort of headway? We can't just speak ad nauseum about here are the challenges. There has to be a concerted effort, including with the development strategies and financing strategies that are in place.
Yes, indeed. So the question of when is a bit complex because of the underlying factors. So one of the factors that you will find that there are a challenge is in terms of financing some of the capital assets that are actually required for the aviation industry to be at ease. But in as much as you spoke about some of the policies that are there, these policies, by and large, we know about the open skies for Africa, but some of these policies have not been actioned. Um, in as much as there has been a political speak, what we want to start seeing is political action, an action that actually realizes into meaningful action. And there has been a lag in terms of us realizing that particular initiative. So we are still a bit far in terms of achieving that particular goal. And I wouldn't want to put a specific timeline to say by such a date we would have this issue resolved because it speaks to political commitment, it speaks to financing, it also speaks to a large extent the issue of skills. We would know, I think, particularly if you look at the South African scenario, whereby we are battling just to have people that have got capacity to operate our in space navigation systems operating at 40% in a country that is that have got huge unemployment. So that also speaks to the issues of skills and transforming policy into action.
Okay, so let's talk about doing that. The G20 summit is coming up. How do we learn from continents like Europe, Southeast Asia, that we at least empower ourselves, but also not find ourselves in those evergreen contracts that still leave us out of the space?
Yes. So one of the things that we can do is to try and leverage on the technical capacity that these G20 countries have. If you look at the amount of connectivity that is actually in for example, the European airspace, the American airspace, these are well connected airspaces whereby Africa, being led by South Africa, can actually, tap into technical resources and also try to foster policies that deals with some of the challenges that we have seen. Because amongst other factors, we have got issues of exorbitant air taxes, which actually then, in as much as the operating cost for airlines is prohibitively high, which threatens the business viability of many airlines. So some of these, the G20 then has to play a leading role in terms of bringing all the role players that are in the aviation, transport, tourism, and including international relations to the same table so that we find meaningful solutions to some of these challenges.
And how important is connecting air connectivity with other tourism infrastructures like roads, because it's all part of a matrix, isn't it?
Yes, so for tourism to be viable, we need to start to see uh, infrastructure that is working as it is supposed to. And in some of the destinations that we have, particularly in Africa, are in remote areas, and these remote areas require some sort of air servicing. So if we have got a reliable. So one of the issues that we then need to talk about is in as much as we have got that connectivity, is that connectivity reliable? Is it efficient? And if it is not efficient and it is not reliable, then it becomes very difficult, particularly for a tourist that is coming from outside of Africa or even within Africa. So when travelers come to the continent, they already have a very tight itinerary. So if you're going to have an air system that is not efficient, then you end up losing on some of the bookings that we have made, and that this have got serious implications on the reputations of our destinations and also on whether someone can actually invest in travel to Africa, given the challenge in terms of time and also in terms of resources that are needed for people to move from one place to the other.
All right. We thank you so much for your time and your insights, Professor Kaitano Dube, Professor in Tourism and Integrated Communication from the Vaal University of Technology, just speaking to us about air connectivity, particularly in Africa, not only the expense, but the lack of investment and policy enactment, as he says.